Now that I am speechless, truly speechless. I cannot. I think the commentator said it was 1965 since the last time we won by that many goals or more. 4-0. Burnley FC winning 4-0. Granted. Wolverhampton Wanderers perhaps were not on their best game today. But I don't think that takes anything away from how we played today. We were on top and we just dominated for I argue the full 90. Even when rather Wolverhampton, I'm just gonna call them Wolves. I don't know why I keep calling them Wolverhampton. Even when Wolves were attacking, nothing looked like it was ever going to happen. We just looked really assured, and we were just such a dominating team today. And it's baffling. It absolutely baffles me how a couple weeks prior we were scoring a couple goals and then losing, whereas today we scored a couple goals. About 20 minutes passed. Every single second that passed that we scored our first goal and second goal, I thought Wolves are just going to come back and beat us. But I think we've proved today that we've got the bottle back, and we've thought, you know what, balls to this. All right, we're not having any more of this rancid feel around our club, and we went 2-0 up, then we went 3-0 up, and nearly in the dying embers of the game we went 4-0 up. I genuinely cannot express how proud I am of that squad, and I'm just really happy. I'm really happy. I just you know what, that's it. I'm just gonna say I'm really happy, and there's nothing I don't think that could taint today. Um, well, famous last words and all that. But I'm just seriously pleased with that result. Seriously pleased. Takes us up to 14th place because of the goal difference. But Southampton still do have a game in hand, so we could potentially be in 15th place by the time Southampton next play. But I don't know when they're playing. I don't think they're playing today. So yeah, just in terms of Wolverhampton not playing well, I really do think that was a killer for them. In terms of our first goal came from a very poor mistake from them. We nearly had a goal after a mistake they had just moments prior to that. They weren't good. I don't think they really strung together even 2 minutes worth of dominating football. Which, if I'm a Wolves fan right now, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed that my team just never really got it out of first gear. Never even put it in first gear. I think Wolves were just in neutral the entire time. And as I say, I'd be very disappointed as a Wolves fan today. Though, having said that, I think we kept them very quiet. One thing I said before the game is Charlie Taylor, without doubt, will keep Adama Traore very quiet. And we will talk about that Adama Traore incident momentarily. I think Charlie Taylor kept him so quiet. And when Adama's quiet, Wolves are quiet. Generally, I feel like that's how it generally goes. Granted, I haven't watched every single game of Wolves this season. But I don't think you need to understand that Adama Traore is possibly their biggest threat if you take out the fact that Wolves as a team is already a very talented team. And maybe today was just because of the fact that Wolves are high up enough in the league to not have to worry about winning anymore or getting points. But when you're losing to a team that before today was 17th place, 4-0, there's not really an excuse. Yes, you might not have anything to play for, but you still have pride. You still have next season to play for. Whether or not you're in next season, which I'd imagine Wolves will play in the 2021-22 season, unless things go very, very wrong for them. But those players have to be fighting to keep their places next season. And to not do that, I think, is poor, and I think it's embarrassing, really. You could understand maybe if they lost 4-0 to like a Man City or a team that can just pull teams apart, but we pulled them apart, and it felt with ease. And personally, I know I'm supposed to be analysing the game here, but I couldn't quite determine whether or not it was that Burnley just played an excellent game or Wolves were just extremely poor today. But I suppose that's why the comments are there for a discussion, because if I don't know the answer, hopefully someone will. Though I will say, I think it's probably just a mix. As always, when it comes to conceding many goals in a single game, it's always that one team plays bad and the other plays good. As perhaps silly as that sounds, but no matter where you are in the table, no matter how safe you are, you do not lose 4-0 to a team in 17th place. And if I'm a Wolves fan, I'm absolutely appalled at today. But as a Burnley fan, I'm a Burnley fan, so I don't care about Wolves. Okay, I'm very pleased. So yeah, let's get into the individual performances of the game. Actually, no, having said that, I do want to talk about the Adama Traore incident super quickly. So, from what I understand, when you apply pressure to a man's facial area in any way, you get a red card. As far as I am aware, if you attempt to pick somebody up from being injured, you don't get a yellow card for it. James Tarkowski got a yellow card for that, and I'm absolutely appalled that the referee gave a yellow. The reason I can perhaps excuse a referee for giving a yellow to Adama was that there wasn't really much power. There was malice. Like, don't get me wrong, there was malice there, and there was obviously intent and perhaps a feeling of anger. And you know what? I'd be the exact same if I'm in his scenario. Nobody wants to be 2-0 down after about 20 minutes. And I can understand that tensions are high and emotions are high, but you can't put your hand to someone's face. Xhaka did perhaps something not as... I think Xhaka did something slightly worse than Adama Traore did and got a red card. Westwood fell over there and played it. He used it and Xhaka got a red card. If Jack Cork falls over there and pretends he's really hurt himself, I don't think the refs can argue that it's a red card, which is poor, because Adama obviously has thrown his arm out uncontrollably and maybe not attempted to hurt Jack Cork, but has potentially put him in some sort of danger to have possibly hurt him. Obviously, it doesn't hurt him, and if anyone does fall over there, the only thing you can really put it to is that you have to fall over to get a reaction from the referee. But all in all, even if he does get a red card, we dominate this game. He was quiet the entire game, all down to Charlie Taylor, as I said. So anyway, yeah, the individual performances, we'll go through this quickly. Nick Pope, though he didn't have much to do, just because of Wolves' poor attacking prowess today, I think he was good. There were a couple of times where Wolves had crosses coming over, and Pope got to them so perfectly, so quickly. And I will say it's upsetting that Bailey Peacock-Farrell had to be taken out of the squad, but I think it was warranted. He conceded 5 goals in 2 games. I know he probably couldn't have done much to prevent any of them, but when you're a goalkeeper and you're conceding 5 goals in 2 games, you need to maybe look a little bit further into it and see why is this happening. But Nick Pope today obviously didn't concede a single goal, and I was begging he got a clean sheet today because he really does deserve it. He's a great keeper. But as I said, just generally coming out and collecting balls from crosses, he was excellent. And I know that's Nick Pope's game. That's the creme de la creme when it comes to football and Nick Pope's ability in football. The one in particular that I particularly noticed was near the end of the game. They had a corner, I think it was, and he crossed it over. Nick Pope came up, jumped, and just... Oh, it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I understand a lot of people might not look at that and think, wow, that's amazing. But to me, when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, you don't really see many keepers really pushing themselves to get to... Because it wasn't an easy ball to collect either, by the way. But he really did push himself to get that and keep it safe. And I was worried that he went down with a shoulder injury injury, but I don't think it was. I think he was just winded. So I'm hoping nothing bad's come from that. So yeah, all in all, pretty good game, but didn't really have much to do. But when he did have stuff to do, he did it perfectly. I think we all know who the man of the match is going to be, so there's not really much point building up to it. So Matt Lowen, I thought maybe for the entirety of the first half was our worst player. He just didn't seem to place any passes right anywhere. And I don't like to say it because I do love Matt Lowen and I think he's a great talent. No matter how old he gets, the dude just keeps getting better. However, today, his crosses generally were quite wayward, never really reached the target. A lot of his passing, I don't know if it was his decision making or if it was the passing itself. There was one in particular that I remember. He was trying to pass it forward to Josh Brownhill, who was making a run down the wing, but he just passed it nowhere near him. So I wasn't sure if he was trying to do a different pass and still failed, or if it was just a really poor pass. Either way, I wasn't keen on his performance today. But defensively, I think he was perfectly fine. He won quite a few headers, actually, now I'm thinking about it. For a small guy, he gets up in the air well. I say small guy, he's not small, is he? He's probably like average height. But as I say, I think he did perfectly fine today defensively. It was just in terms of getting the ball forward. He perhaps wasn't as good. But I don't think that's too bad when you've got Charlie Taylor on the left-hand side who had an absolutely brilliant attacking game today. Constantly overlapping those runs and he and Dwight McNeil today, they were back to their best. They just played so beautifully together. They were always an option to each other, which I feel like recently has been a bit of a problem. Sometimes they haven't been an option, and it's just been, all right, pass it back into the centre or pass it back, rather than let's work it out together. And that's exactly what did so well for us today. They just got it. They just understood exactly what each other were doing, and it was beautiful to see. And as I said, defensively, the man just keeps Adama Traore quiet. He just keeps him quiet, and I don't know how he does it, but Charlie Taylor is Adama Traore's bane, and I will forever love that. I will forever love that Charlie Taylor, of all left-sided fullbacks, just keep Adama Traore quiet. Brilliant. What can I say? I love Charlie Taylor, and I really, really do think in terms of England's choices of left back, what are you talking? You're talking Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. They're good, but are they Charlie Taylor good? You know, you have to ask yourselves these things. And I personally think Charlie Taylor is the best left back England can get right now. But maybe I'm just biased. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. Centre back positions anyway. Ben Mee and James Tarkowski. I thought Ben Mee was quite quiet today. Just because he didn't really have to do much because the winged defenders were doing everything really quite well. They didn't really go through the centre all too much. And Nick Pope was collecting the balls. Ben Mee didn't really have to do much. But when you say that a defender was quiet, that's probably a good thing because they've not done anything wrong. Granted, they haven't done anything spectacular, but what could he have done that was spectacular? To me, I don't think he could have done much more. So with what he could do, I think he did fine. Same with James Tarkowski. You could basically copy and paste that. Though I think Tark's tried to push it a little bit further today. There were a couple times where perhaps he was trying to prove his worth to Gareth Southgate and had lost the ball, which is very disappointing to me. I don't like seeing him trying to prove his worth constantly. I just think he has to let it happen rather than force it. And I feel like sometimes that's what he's doing. He's trying to force his way into the England squad rather than have it happen naturally. And I really, really do think James Tarkowski is one of England's best centre-backs and should be getting into the England squad, no doubt. Doesn't matter whether or not he can hold onto the ball well and pass it well. To me, he is one of England's best centre-backs, and it is unfair that he's not even getting a sniff into that squad. But to get in that squad, I don't think he should be doing what he's doing, because right now, he's just trying to force everything. He's trying to force ability and sort of flair that doesn't need to be forced. James Tarkowski has that in him, but he needs to just take a step back and allow himself to sort of understand what was getting him into the England squad in the first place. But as I say, I love James Tarkowski. I really do love him, and I hope he doesn't leave. I would give the majority of my life savings to keep James Tarkowski rocking about in this team. But we'll see. We will see. Especially if Alan Pace is looking at pumping money into the squad in the summer. Maybe James Tarkowski will be thinking, all right, maybe I can stay for a couple more years. This team's starting to push forward a bit more. I don't know. We'll see. Midfield, Dwight McNeil. If Chris Wood didn't have a masterclass that he did today, Dwight McNeil is... Oh, what a match. What a match he had. He was just on it constantly. Any loose ball that he wanted to collect, he came and collected it. The second goal that Chris Wood scored came from Dwight McNeil collecting a loose ball. He seemed to just see the pass that was happening and already started running before the pass had happened. Picked up the ball, run in, and made a beautiful, incisive pass into the centre, and he just knew that Chris Wood was going to be there. Perhaps that's more a Chris Wood thing, but I'd argue that's more of a Dwight McNeil understanding the people that he's playing with, which is excellent. It's really good to know that your players are learning each other day in, day out. And I really think that proved it today. I think Dwight McNeil just... Wow. It really was a spectacular performance. Like, you talk about the Everton game where he scored that world-class goal. But even that game, nowhere near the levels of Dwight McNeil today. Dwight McNeil was on it. He was on it so hard. 2 assists. You really just can't ask much more from him. Anything that he had to do, he did it right. I personally can't think right now off the top of my head of any situations where Dwight McNeil lost the ball in a silly way, or passed it wrong, or what have you. I just don't think there was any real jeopardy in Dwight McNeil's play today, and that's exactly what I want to see. And he played as if he hasn't had the pressure on his back for quite a while now, and it's very refreshing to see. Or rather, it was very refreshing to see. Hopefully, he can carry it on. We don't know. But as I say, it was very refreshing to see him just have that flair about him again, and have that level of comfortability and free flow that we know Dwight McNeil has and can portray. It's just, I don't think recently he has been able to do that, and today he's really switched it, and he's done that exact thing today, and it's been lovely to see. In terms of the central midfield roles, Ashley Westwood obviously got his goal. A really well taken goal, I will say. If he doesn't score that, I think he's one of our more invisible players today. Not in terms of playing bad. I just think in terms of like the Ben Mee situation. It was as if he was kind of just the sort of, how can I put this, like the anchor or the pivot to the play, and he did very well. But I don't think that midfield was overall attacked too hard by Wolves. It was more just defence, attack, and then the midfield was somewhere in the centre. So I don't really think Westwood had much more to prove other than, I'm going to pick this ball up, I'm going to push forward, maybe pass it out wide, pass it back central, or push it forward. And I really don't think he had a bad game at all. I think he actually had a good game. I should just say, I think he had a good game. And I think maybe his performance was marred by the fact that he couldn't prove his worth because Wolves didn't do anything to let him do that. So I think it would be unfair to say he's had a bad game, and because he definitely didn't. But I just think Wolves could have made it look a bit better for him. Jack Cork, in terms of his performance today, I thought Jack Cork was excellent. He was all over the place. Like, I was actually really impressed, and I have been really impressed, and I always am really impressed, because I really do like Jack Cork. I think he's an excellent centre midfielder, very well experienced, and he just gets it. He just gets football. Obviously, he's had a lot of games in top flight football now, and just football in general. So there won't be many scenarios where Jack Cork will be slipping up and thinking, "Whoa, I don't know what to do in this scenario." Yeah, there were moments where I saw him out wide. I don't even know why he was out wide. He's Jack Cork. There were moments where he was back in defence, doing his business. But just generally in the centre of the park, I think he controlled it really well. he actually performed really, really well with Dwight McNeil and Charlie Taylor on the left-hand side, I thought, today. He worked as the pivot between them, whereas Ashley Westwood worked as the pivot between the rest of the team. That's what I understood anyway. And I thought Jack Cork was excellent today. And Jack Cork just doesn't look like he's in his mid-30s, and it's very impressive. And I really do think Josh Brownhill's going to have some working to do to maybe displace Jack Cork at this point, because Jack Cork is on fire. I think he's really proven his worth as a player, and I still think he's got a couple of years left in his tank at top flight level. And by that time, Josh Brownhill's going to be great. I can just feel it. He's going to be great. Speaking of Josh Brownhill, on the right-hand side, it is very upsetting because last time against Man United, Josh Brownhill was on it. He had a lot to do. Made a few mistakes, but generally had a pretty good game. But today, on the right-hand side, as always, he didn't do much, which I think is why we probably attacked down the left-hand side a lot more. Matt Loughton wasn't having a great game, and Josh Brownhill was a bit invisible. I can't recall anything coming from the right-hand side, to be perfectly honest. Honestly, that's all I can give. I just don't think Josh Brownhill did all that much today. And it's obviously a bit upsetting, because you don't want to just say that for a player, but that's all I can give. Maybe you've got better thoughts on this. If so, please do talk about Josh Brownhill in the comments. Because from what I can remember of the game, I didn't think there was anything of particular worth he did, other than, being part of a team that won 4-0 and didn't concede and scored 4 goals. It's good. But up top, we're nearly at the main man. We're nearly there. Matej Vidra up top. I thought today he got a goal, but it was offside. I think generally we all knew it was going to be offside. Even he knew it was offside. Just before he'd got around the keeper to shoot, he looked backwards to see if the referee had whistled. He obviously didn't. He pushed it out and then he scored. It was a well-taken goal. Quite Matej Vidra-like, and it was nice to see. Other than that, I don't think he had the sort of explosive game he usually has, but given the opportunity up top, he was always there and he was always making things happen. He just wasn't as maybe part of the final product today, but he was part of the build-up to the final product, which is perfectly fine. I don't think that's anything to turn your nose up at as a striker, as an attacking player. If you can be the second man to the man who gets a hat-trick and an assist, I don't think you can say much as a striker to say, but I wanted something. Obviously, they always do. Strikers always want something. But there's absolutely nothing wrong. There's no shame in being part of the team rather than being part of the final product and being part of the score. And I think really, to put it in best terms, is that yes, you didn't get your name put in the history books sort of thing, but you were part of the people who did get their names put in the history books. Obviously, it's not a history... Well, it is a history book game. It's been about 60 years since we last scored 4 goals, so this is the history books. We're talking about the history books now. And you know what? I'm just going to talk about Gio Rodriguez now. He obviously came on for Matej Vidra. Didn't do much, to be honest. He won the ball once and took a shot from 30 yards out. He needs to stop doing it. He needs to really stop trying to... It's a similar thing to James Tarkowski. Gio Rodriguez, whenever he comes off the bench to make a slight difference, he had about 18 minutes, I think it was. That's enough time, I suppose. Maybe not as much as he would have liked, but 18 minutes to come off the bench and make a bit of a difference. Won the ball, shot from 25, 30 yards out, missed it massively. You're not going to prove your worth by scoring long shots. Anyone can score long shots, but not everyone can... Pardon me. Not everyone can create a goal with a bit of flair. But on the same token, I will say he did get the pre-assist to Ashley Westwood's goal. So maybe I'm being a little bit unfair on him in that sense. Chris Wood did well to stay on did well to know he was offside and then bring himself back onside and take the ball forward. So I suppose in that sense he did get the pre-assist. But even still, I wasn't entirely convinced of his performance. But we finally come on to the main man, the man of the hour, perhaps the man who has, I'd argue, shown one of Burnley's best individual performances in a very long time. I can't remember the last time Burnley got a hat trick. Off the top of my head, if someone has got a hat trick in the past for Burnley recently, please do say. I can't remember that ever happening in recent history under Sean Dyche, I should say. Wow. All right, let me just think about these goals. So obviously the first goal he got, ball came over from, I think it was Ashley Westwood, might have been someone else, but I think it was Ashley Westwood. Ball drops down. He turns. I think it's Saiss. So either Saiss or Conor Cody. I can't remember. Everything's a bit blurred right now because I was so ecstatic watching it. So obviously he turned one of these players and then turned him the other way back around and just from quite a tight angle, I might add, just put the ball right past Rui Patricio, right into the side netting, put it exactly where it had to go in. And you know what? That, to me, that is a massive sign of a confident striker. He is confident. Please believe me. Chris Wood is confident. He wants to be in front of goal now. I think perhaps earlier in the season he was a bit more worried to be in front of goal and a bit more worried to put himself forward. But today, he was where he needed to be to score goals. Believe you me. And it wasn't even that he was just there. He made the goals. Obviously, he's had to pull the ball down, take the man off of him 2 times. I might add, take the man off of him 2 times and take a very well taken shot. The second goal, Dwight McNeil, great assist, absolutely beautiful assist from the corner. Not from the corner, sorry, that's the third goal. I must apologise, but this one still was a beautiful assist. Dwight McNeil obviously won the ball, passed it, and Chris Wood made an intelligent run to just get into that place. And D-Mac knew we were there, and he was just there to put it away. It was very similar to Chris Wood's assist for Vidra against Newcastle, but this time Chris Wood was the one putting it in the back of the net. For his third goal, obviously, it was a ball over from D-Mac. I keep calling him D-Mac. I don't know if people call him D-Mac, but I've been calling him D-Mac, and I think it suits him really well. So I must apologise if that's infuriating or what have you. Chris Wood obviously jumps up, wins the header beautifully, and I don't get shivers very much in football, but seeing him slide on both of his knees after scoring that header, I had shivers all over my body. I can't even explain. When I saw that it was him who scored it, because I first thought it was Tarks, but when I first saw that it was him who scored it, I just shivers all over. I just thought, wow, that is massive. That is massive for him. And please, I absolutely adore Chris Wood. And I always have adored him, even in times where he perhaps wasn't looking excellent. I've always adored him, and I've always seen him as our best striker. And I think today he's really cemented himself as our best striker at the club right now. Honestly, he was just on top of it. And obviously his assist today for Ashley Westwood, when he doesn't win the ball, Joe Rodriguez collects the ball, pulls himself back onside. Giroud passes it in. Chris Wood lines himself up for a shot 2 or 3 times and eventually just looks to his right, sees Ashley Westwood, passes it out. I think Westwood did more of the work in terms of actually scoring the goal, but Chris Wood pulled a lot of defenders in towards him because I'd imagine the defenders were quite scared of him, considering just how clinical he was today. And he was very clinical. And truly, you know what? I don't even care. I'm going to get about 6 views on this video, all right? But if Chris Wood is watching this video, I want it to be known that you are the only person in football who's ever given me shivers, all right? Just so you know, you're the only person in football who's ever given me shivers from a hat-trick. From anything, in fact. And, yeah, that's my Kiwi striker, and I absolutely love him. So yeah, today was just a great game, great day to be a Burnley fan, and a potentially unfortunate day to be a Wolverhampton fan. I say potentially, it was a very unfortunate and awful day to be a Wolves fan. But as I say, I'm a Burnley fan, so I don't care. I came across as really cocky there. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to analyse football whilst doing it in a biased Burnley perspective and just enjoy it. And that's our first win in about 3 games now, 4 games. Our last win was against Everton. So that brings us now 9 points ahead of the relegation zone, with 3 teams behind us who could also potentially be pulled into a relegation battle again. So as I say, everything's coming up Millhouse, and it's so pleasing. We've obviously got West Brom coming up next week. So I think if we beat West Brom, we're up. We stay up and we go through to next season. If we don't beat West Brom, there's still an argument to be made that we will stay up. But there's just that little bit less of a chance. So yeah, all in all, wonderful day for Burnley fans, very sad day for Wolverhampton fans. But here we are, we're 14th in the league. Champions League football next season. I'm feeling it. But yeah, anyway, great game. On to the next one against West Bromwich Albion. Fingers crossed we can pummel them the same way we pummeled their Brummy mates in Wolverhampton. So yeah, God bless you and God bless Chris Wood. On to the next one. Come on, you Clarets.